Hey guys, welcome to another episode of El Jefe's Shop. This week we're working on the Toyoace again. Alright, so the next problem with this Toyoace is the steering column. So I don't know if you remember many episodes ago, I made a plate which is not attached at the bottom yet. It has two bearing carriers here, and then I had a bit of a cobbled together welded shaft through there. So that's not good enough, it never was. I knew it wasn't going to be, but I didn't have the parts. So now I'm onto that section of the build. So I've got a bit of a Commodore column here. So I want this piece of double D shaft, and then I need a piece of this, and this piece of column here, and a piece of this bit, which is the original shaft. And then I have ordered two double D unis, so I'll go get those today as well. And then this is a spare Toyoace steering shaft, or steering box. So I could just use this in the car, but it actually points off on an angle, and I really don't like it. It sits kind of crooked and off center from where you sit in the car, and I can't deal with that. So what I need to do with this is cut it down, and then a friend of mine is going to machine two flats on it, make it into a double D shaft. Then we can put it all in the car and cut it to length, given the like where the unis need to sit and all that sort of stuff. So pretty much just a bit of prep work today, and I'll send this off, and then later in this episode this will be finished, I imagine, and then I can put it all back together. So what I'm going to do to start with is this is the bottom section, bottom half of a VR Calais steering column. So I'm going to cut that bit out, and then I will cut a little collar off of here, and a little collar off of here, and then I'll show you how it's all going to bolt together. Alright, so I got everything cleaned up. This is the original, this is a K70 steering shaft. This is the Commodore piece, and then these two guys are going to be for the bearings. So they're going to float on here with the bearings in them. So I need to cut these down some more, and then I need to go get the unis. So there'll be a uni here, and then there'll be a uni here onto the shaft, which is the steering box shaft, which I've cut back, but need to get flattened. So I'll clean these up, get the bearings in situ, and then that's probably all I can do for today. Alright, so I think I forgot to film. This steering wheel is not going with the Toyoace, but it's going on the Toyoace. I got this in Japan, so that's staying, but it is going on it. And I'll find another deep dish aftermarket wheel to go on here. So then this is stock Toyoace steering, what's called indicator stalk. So I need to make a mount for that. And this is K70, and this is some kind of Toyota, just a spacer basically. Then aftermarket bush, same again, Toyota spacer, aftermarket bearing bush. So these two are the same. And then we've got out the back here is the rest of the steering column. I'm gonna go a double D uni off of here into the Commodore steering column it's just double D stock, that's all I had. And then off the end of that into a double D into the steering box, which I need to get machined to be double D as well. So now what I'm doing is trying to get the indicator stalk to be a thing. So I've got this original column off the Toyoace. I'm just going to try and cut some chunks out and put a chunk in here, make it mount to the steering column and the indicators, and then one in here, and then I'll go another one in here to the bush once I get all that sort of stuff sorted, and just try and cover it all up with old rusty stuff and try and hide it a little bit, and then probably paint these black or something. So I'm just going to cut a piece for here now and a piece for here, and I'm going to try and mount this indicator stalk on that tube, and then the tube to probably this plate. See how we go. Alright, so a little bit more progress. Got the shaft cut down here, or the column cover, or whatever you call it. So I need to get a bearing that stops that, and same thing there. Then I'll have to fix these to the plate somehow. Not sure how I'm going to do that just yet, but we'll get there in the end. So I need to get some bearings for there, probably another one down here. And I can also use it for this one here, so I'll get 3. That should be enough to like make it look sneaky enough. I also need to go drop this off shortly. So we're getting there, but it's all just a bit of a thing. The indicator stalks should line up pretty good and should mount and look pretty stock. So it's cool. I'm just going to keep working at it and get some bearings and get some bits and make it happen. Alrighty, I can't remember what I filmed last, but I went to the bearing shop got some bearings that look like this, and they don't really have a part number, but they're basically a wheelbarrow wheel bearing, so they're high load, low speed, which is exactly what I need. So these two bearings here are like overkill, and they hold the column to the car. And then what I've done is put those little bearings that I got in here and made a column cover, basically. So then the indicator stalk can bolt onto here, and then this will get fixed to the car, and then the column can spin, and these two can stay still. So I don't know where I got filmed, but that's where I got to. So I ended up lathing these out a little tiny bit, lathing them square, or turning, sorry. Anyone who's actually a machinist is going to be grumpy, Aiden, so I'm looking at you. So turned these square, turned a little bit of it out of them so the bearings would fit, and that was all sweet. And then there's a little spacer in here which I was talking about earlier, so I turned those to the length of the bearing. So God forbid I have to get those out ever, but they're good to go. Then I also started working on the accelerator pedal, so I bought a rose joint, and then I got a bolt, so that's an M8 rose joint. I needed to go to an M6 so I can join it to this guy. So I've turned that down as well. I need to get the die and put an M6 thread on that, but I can't find mine, of course. So then that'll go in the bottom of there. This will go to the pedal end, and then it'll go up and down. So that's a little side problem. This is the main problem for today. Then I also stopped in at the engineers. They also came around last night and helped me, but they're mates. So I got these double D. So this is all double D is this stuff. So there's two flats. It's 19mm rod with two flats that make it a 14mm. So then I got double D unis. So this just goes in there like that. And then the idea is I can put it on the end of here, on the end of the steering column, and then onto this guy, and onto another double D, and then into the steering box, which is now gone and at the machinist getting fixed. Thank you, Aiden, again. And then the other main massive improvement with this is the column. So from where the boss attaches all the way to the base is one piece factory. I haven't welded it, I haven't cut it, I haven't done anything. So that is safe and legal and secure. Whereas the old lit setup was like cut and welded purely so I could get it working. Because I didn't have the double D stuff, I had only spline stuff. So it's much better than it was. I just need to fix these things and get it actually fixed in the car. And then when I get the steering box back, we can work out if I need to cut these shorter or longer. Can't cut them longer, obviously, but cut them back. Or this guy needs to be cut back, or the other bit needs to be cut back. And then the indicator stalk can go on here and get it all fixed, and it all looks all crusty and old. Good. Alright, I got back from running around, so this is what I've got. A turnbuckle, a rose joint, and then I made this bolt. So yesterday I used the lathe and turned this down, and then I put a thread on it just before. So the idea is that'll go in there and thread into both halves of that. So this will be the pedal end, and then this end will go down to the little adjusty guy, which I haven't done, which is going to sit just in there somewhere. Alright, I got the turnbuckle done. So now this is all locked up nice and tight. So the bolt that I've made is now threaded into the turnbuckle, and that's all locked up. So that won't move ever again, hopefully. And then now the 8mm thread and the reverse thread work together for the turnbuckle. So I can't really show you because it takes more than one hand. But the idea with this is it'll go in place of this bar right here. So it'll go in place with this bar here, something like that. And then I can just adjust it very slightly. So that will be a later episode, but we have a throttle cable. Alright, this is the steering column that Aiden did for me. So this is the sample I gave him of what I needed, and then he turned this whole shaft into this stuff. So this is double D steering shaft, and of course the stock steering wasn't. So it's been machined down, so now it is double D, so I can cut it to whatever length I want, and we'll work it out once it's in the car. That's a bloody loud plane. Alright, so I've pulled the old steering box out. I've resealed this one, cleaned it up, gave it a bit of a clean on the inside as well, resealed both of the plates, bolted on the steering holdy plate. I don't know what I'm going to call that yet. So I'm going to check this back in the car so I can do the rest of the other episode, which is the brakes and all that sort of stuff. So I'm going to check this in the car, and then I will show you the rest when I get to adding the actual steering back together. Alright, so I've got the steering box back in. I have lubed the joins and actually connected it back to the steering, like to the wheels. So so that's good. Steering column mount is welded and painted. Got the little bracket, extra bracket underneath, painted. And we also got the steering all hooked up. So this piece in the middle is very temporary. We didn't have enough length on the piece we had, so we just joined two together. But everything works pretty good. None of the uni joints bind, and it does seem okay. So this is probably the easiest things to change if there's a problem once I drive it. So I'm going to just drive it and see if there is a problem, and then we'll go from there. The next problem was the steering box itself was actually really tight. Turns out the plate on the bottom actually puts pressure on a bearing, so that needs to be spaced out correctly. I don't have that gasket anymore, so I've put some little rubber grommets in there at the moment and done it up real tight, and it's actually working. But I need to look into that a bit more later so it can actually hold fluid and all that sort of stuff. Alright, so as you may have noticed, this episode was a bit sporadic. So I was filming this when I was filming next week's video, which is a bit of a montage of random stuff. So this one was just basically all steering. So the idea with this was to get this car steering ready to be pushed out of the shed, ready to move it into the driveway. Right at the end there, that last clip, you can see we changed the bearings on the actual steering column and also hooked up the uni joints. So mate Ronnie that works at the engineers came and helped me out with that. We got everything as best as we can, and then those bearings were arguing with each other, like the old ones. So I went and bought some new ones, which are these ones you just saw, and then it seems to be pretty smooth and pretty good now. So the steering should work. I need to put another brace down the bottom for the steering box. There's a long shaft that comes out the steering box that's currently unsupported, and if the wheels were stuck in a rut or something and you turned, you would definitely bend that. So that's another thing that I need to fix, but that'll all be later on. There's one more episode on the Toyoace, and then we're jumping into the new project because I have to. So thank you very much for watching, and we'll see you next week.